I guess it's fair to say I've been a little slow this week after the immense project I went through going through those game demos the past 2 weeks. But I'll say that was fun. That was exhilarating. And yeah, hope to do that again next time they do another Steam Next Fest or anything like that. Another thing to note, I did play the Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess demo this past day. I played it last night. Pretty good. It was pretty fun. I like the spectacle action with the slight strategy mixed in with it, with commandeering your units on the field. Granted, the unit sizes that you had to play with in the demo was not nearly as big as I would have hoped, and I feel like the strategy part of it is it's a bit bare bones, especially when you've already put almost 80 hours into something like Unicorn Overlord this year. So, I mean, in most cases, I would say Kunitsugami has a lot of bare bone fundamentals that are good, and the demo never really expanded on any of them, except for maybe giving you more new roles as you progressed further into the demo itself. But besides that, I would say it's most fun when it's actually difficult. The early stages are pretty easy and kind of like bare bones. The bonus level that's in the demo, that's kind of where I see the potential for the game becoming really good, engaging, and stuff like that. But still, I feel like it's a little too simplistic for something that has to mix action with strategy. If you just want something like that, but have it be more focused on tactics as well as unit assembly, you should probably just look at Unicorn Overlord anyway. I don't... Why did I deviate from Path of the Goddess? Anyway, what I want to talk about... Fallen Aces Episode 1. Fallen Aces. Self-described. It's a first-person brawler adventure with open-ended levels, voice acting, these cutscenes that are comic book-based panels, this 2D sprite art in 3D environments, kind of reminiscent of like a Duke Nukem 3D. I'd say even the demo has like an homage to it at the very start, where you start on a rooftop and you have to break down boards to get through it. That was a 2022, I'm going to say a 2022 demo that I had for a really long time. It only had one level, but I put in like almost 10 hours into the demo by itself. Just because of the way that the levels are designed in this game. Straight from the jump, Chapter 1 in Fallen Aces Episode 1. You're in your apartment and you have an optional apartment brawl to get through, because you can either wait for these guys to show up in your room, you can break down the door and have the fight start ahead of time, you can destroy the telephone that you're supposed to pick up to even trigger it as well sooner, or you can just straight up open the curtains in your window, break through, and escape your apartment without having to deal with them. And that's the approach mostly with this game. You will get into a linear path for maybe like a couple of minutes in the level, where you're required to kind of do only one or two things before you can progress, and then most of it is sort of an open sandbox with many different vents that you can break through, or puzzles that you can solve by hitting objects like switches from across the way to gain access to other areas. Or you can even, I mean, this is really esoteric, like very obscure design mechanic, which is that you can like sneak up behind people and you can actually pickpocket things that they would have, and you can denote anybody who would have something to pickpocket if they have like a sparkling aura around them, like a sparkling effect around them, and you can hear like keys jingling sound effect coming from them. So if you see that, you can pickpocket people, which I don't see it often. I don't see a lot of people talk about, because I feel like the game never really explains to you that you can do that. And I feel like that's very consistent with what we have in the game so far too. the game doesn't bother telling you this, but you can basically chuck most items that you can hold in your hands. You can chuck most of them at enemies to deal damage or used as a projectile. And the game doesn't really tell you that you can do that with like everything. It'll tell you how to drop weapons. It won't tell you that holding that same button will instead activate an arc. A sort of an arc that will show up, and your character is holding the weapon back, ready to throw it. And not just weapons, right? Because you can pick up trash cans in this. You pick up planks, pick up coffee pots, glasses. You can pick up most anything there. Microphone stands. It's a lot. There's a lot of shit that you can interact with in this. And that's probably the most satisfying about this game, is the brawler interactions that come with it. If you learn the enemies' animations, their fake outs, all of that sort of thing, you can block things perfectly and you can punish them for heavy damage, and then you can enact finishing moves on them, or you can like pick them up and then like sock them in the face, or you can go for like a spinning roundhouse kick that can have like an area of effect that will knock down other enemies there. And then when they're on the floor, you can just press Q, you'll like curb stomp them. It's not Gears of War curb stomp, it's mostly just an animation of this guy like stepping on a bug and like, you know, like fucking squishing it under his foot. That's kind of what you get in this game, but it still works either way. It's pretty brutal. Chapter 1 is this whole sequence of you trying to escape your apartment to get to your friend Pete's place. And it's basically it is a reenactment of trying to get across an entire city's length, but only in 2 blocks. And you get that feeling too. There's a lot of different areas that you can explore in. This game excels heavily on side areas along your main crit path, where the crit path is not necessarily linear. You could make your way straight to him through speedrunning means of like, you know, exploiting the game with how it works, or you can like go through the rooftops and you can make your way through a comic book shop, whether it's through a vent, or you can like skip around it. There's like a building that's on fire that you can get past by going through a side alleyway, or you can get a fire extinguisher from earlier in the level and you can, you know, extinguish different fires that are spilling out in that building, so you can make your way through it. There's a lot of platforming in it too, which thankfully is alleviated with the ledge grabbing mechanic that's in the game, though I would say it's a little loose. I feel like there needs to be more opportunities for Mike himself to be able to climb on top of ledges a lot easier. At some point it felt like I had to hold jump for him to grab the ledge, and then other moments it felt like I had to press the jump button twice as soon as he reaches a ledge to be able to grab it. And I don't know which is more consistent, or if the mechanic itself is consistent at all. Another thing that I would have to say probably needs a little bit of tweaking is the interaction distance for things like trying to climb ladders. There are certain moments where you can climb up a ladder pretty easy, especially if you can see the ladder, but if you're trying to come down from a high space and you're trying to get down from the same ladder, you have to look at that ladder in a very specific angle, where I feel like the interaction should happen probably either a little higher with its interaction trigger box, or maybe like have it be more consistent, where if you're just looking in the general direction of where the ladder would be, the prompt comes up more frequently. It's a very odd placing with the interaction button for that. I think that probably needs to get fixed up. Now I'm just going into like suggestions for tweaking the game and stuff. I'm not even talking about the chapter anymore. I feel like I don't have much to say about the gameplay. Like, this game is I feel like this game fills a niche, but also I can totally see its mass appeal. It's what I saw somebody post this up in a YouTube comment on someone else's channel. It was like if Condemned and Thief had a baby, but it was in the style of that old game called 13. I think that's the comment. I don't remember the comment. But it was something like that. And look, man, first person combat, this is how you do it. This is exactly how you do it. You want the blocks to feel important. You want the perfect block there to give you that slight advantage for hitting the strong attacks on enemies and have it feel important to do that. You want as many items in the environment to be interactable with, and you want them to be effective too in combat, right? Chucking things at people. You can even eat a banana and then drop the banana peel on the floor, and enemies will literally just slip on it, and you can get instant kills with that. They have the soap bar from other New Blood games, specifically Dusk and Gloomwood, where, you know, using the soap bar on an enemy will immediately kill them, and it'll actually splurt them into giant viscera. Like, ooh, pretty rough. Sometimes this game gets pretty violent, like in a shocking kind of way. Like, you'll grab a sawed-off shotgun and you'll shoot somebody point blank, and their body just becomes giblets, you know? Like, their head, their arms, their limbs are just torn off from the body, and it's just lying there in just blood and guts. It's like, wow. That seeing the comic book style have it go in this sort of direction is a little shocking at first, but I think it works, especially with how the game is very loose with its language, with its vulgarity too. I'd say the characters are your standard comic book style characters, in that either you'll like the style of the game itself and its storytelling, or it's not going to be your thing. It's all up to you, but the gameplay is kind of what stands out the most. I really like the many different approaches you can have into each of the levels and the objectives. Another thing is, I feel like there needs to be some sort of separate incentive, or at least a way for the game to give you secondary objectives more openly, instead of just having them suddenly appear from your exploration. And I feel like there needs to be more incentive into actually doing them. I don't know how else to put it. Like in chapter 2, there is a secondary objective that if you were to never approach the water, then you would probably never actually see it pop up in your on your objectives list, unless of course unless you're paying attention enough times to it, then yeah, for sure you would be able to see it. But most times when you get a secondary objective in this game, right now, it's never mandatory, and I feel like there's not really an incentive to doing them either. You don't get any rewards for it. There's no bonuses or like upgrades you can get, and the same thing goes for collecting money. When you can pickpocket people, you can pickpocket their money if they have any, or sometimes you'll come across a safe with a secret code that you have gotten, and that'll have stash of cash in there. And so far, the only real usability for money currently for episode 1 is looking into vending machines. There are 2 different types of vending machines, one for cigarettes, one for soda. One of them will heal you over time and give you like a speed boost. The cigarettes, when you smoke them, that improves your accuracy when you're shooting weapons. Shooting weapons is very much like how it is in most other tactical based kind of games, where you have to stand still for a second, for like a couple of seconds before your accuracy becomes pinpoint or as good as it can be, depending on the weapon and spread. But all the weapons feel great to use. They're all super strong, which I mean makes sense for this type of game. Limited ammo. Ammo works realistically in that if you try to put a clip into a pistol with like 2 rounds of it left, you'll drop those 2 rounds on the floor and you'll put the clip in instead. So make sure you maximize all the weapon ammo that you have currently at your disposal. Chapter 2. I'm just gonna jump into chapter 2. It takes place in a dock where if you go underwater, like I said, there's a secondary objective to going deep into the underwater area, but there's also sharks in there that will deal more than 50% of your HP, no matter how much armor, which is known as toughness in this game, you have, or if you had 100 health, they can take you out in 2 bites and you're dead. So what you need to do is you need to find a secret spear thrower, a spear gun, where you can attach spears into it, and those will instant kill sharks. Pretty cool. Again, that one also has this whole thing with snipers that are on different rooftops and watchtowers, where you get introduced to a mechanic where it seems like Mike will be able to gain access to different gadgets depending on the situation he's in. And in this case, you can switch between your lighter, or you can switch between calling a sniper order with the other character, Nightwave, who is basically comic book vigilante hero. I mean, all he really does is just kill a bunch of people. He's basically like a kick-ass character, but in this game, in a noir setting. He's a kick-ass character in a noir setting. So you get access to that gadget in this level, where he can snipe out people depending on their location and where he is, because he's propped up in one area on a roof, and so he can only see a certain amount of people, but he gets to see most of the snipers that are on the level. There might be like an exception of like 1 or 2 snipers that you yourself would have to take out, but those guys are pretty easy to access. And you also get to have access to the scoped repeater that they use, and it's a pretty good sniper weapon. I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty good sniper weapon. So after that, chapter 3 is it's a very interesting level. It has different phases. The first phase, it's not necessarily a train level. It's that you took the subway to get to the actual level itself. So you start in the subway station. That's like the first, I guess, mini level in this place, where that's the linear part in chapter 3, and you have to make your way out of the subway station to go into the streets, and it's a daytime level. The last two, chapter 1 and chapter 2, take place at night. This is the one in the game that takes place during the day. Takes place in a junkyard and in the vicinity around the junkyard. You have the choice of either like exploring around the area and the city streets that are near there to, you know, find some cool hidden shit and deal with a couple of goons out there, or you can just do what I did in the first time I played this level. I completely skipped all of that stuff. I went straight into the junkyard. I was just like, oh wow, the game just let me do this. That's all right, fuck it. There's a whole sequence at the end where it's like a shootout. You have to protect this guy in a wheelchair named Blake, and after doing that, you get access to a new car after you guys got shot up at the end of chapter 2, and you make your way into chapter 4 with that car. What's there to say about this level? You get introduced to these traps where like you can set up a tripwire with dynamite on it. Make sure it has a direct connection to another wall opposite of it, of where you place it, or else it's never gonna trigger. Alright, so don't just put it randomly someplace where there's no wall parallel to where you're looking. When you use it, it's a tripwire. It'll instantly kill enemies that get attached to it. Not attached. They don't get attached. You don't get attached to tripwire. You trip on tripwire, and you blow the fuck up. You instantly die from that shit. And there's a whole bunch of those too while you're trying to clear out the goons in the junkyard. And yeah, I think it's interesting. The developer asked if he should do more daylight levels. I think he should, as long as it's the right setting, you know? Maybe like a beach level, have some sort of a beach level during the day. That'd be interesting. I mean, I don't know what his plans are, but it's an interesting concept. Chapter 4, it's from what I hear, it's basically just an homage to Thief. It takes place in a large mansion area of the recently killed mayor or mayoral candidate. Who was initially part of the squadron of people known as the Aces, who Nightwave was a part of originally, and now you're trying to find a missing person from that group. That's the backdrop of the story, by the way. Just a quick lore drop there, but it doesn't get too deep from there, at least for the first episode of this game. Chapter 4 takes place in the mansion of this recently deceased mayoral candidate. It's basically, from what I hear, it's basically a Thief homage in that you get a trank gun and you get a blackjack. If you don't know what a blackjack is, just look up blackjack like weapon, I guess. It's basically just this black studded weapon that you can whack people with, and it'll instantly knock them out. And that's the whole point. The whole point initially is to go around the entire mansion, try to pacify all the enemies that are there. But you know me, at some point I just said, fucking pacify, more like killify. Bad. I gotta cut that out. I basically just killed all the dudes in there, all the goons. You're supposed to do like investigative work as you're figuring out what sort of documents they're trying to look for. The goons here, the Glass Hearts, who is doing this under the command of their leader, who is a guy from Mike's past known as Thomas. He has a steel metal jaw that he can rip people's fingers off of with. And he's a big baddie apparently. You don't ever really get to directly interact with him in the first episode. You always get to hear him over your intercoms, and he's there at the same time with his goons trying to find the documents that you end up fighting, and you have to make your way out of there either through secrecy, or you can just blast your way out, kill all of his goons. You get back into the car. Chapter 4 is a good chapter because the mansion is very intricate with so many different ways to approach it. You can pacify everybody, you can not kill everybody, or you can kill a bunch of people, or you can just straight up try to not knock out or kill anybody. And I think all choices are basically viable with this level. You have different approaches. You can go through the side of the mansion, you can go behind it, you can go through the front through one of the garage doors by ducking under it. There are vents everywhere. And there's also a lot of notes for you to pick up background information on the characters themselves. It's a good fucking level. But I still think my favorite level is the last chapter. The what's it called? The Moth Flame.
Billy's been undercover trying to dig up
Night Bar. Moth to Flame. Moth Flames Night Bar. It's essentially a redux of the demo level. And I say redux fully knowing that this was probably the intended level design to begin with, and that the demo was not the intended level design for this place. It's basically the same setting, but with this, it's the fully realized version of the demo level. So it's revamped, especially from the start. It's still a whole intricate system of like, there's a lot of different side ways and back ways that you can get into the nightclub. You can go through the rooftops, and there are enemies up there. That's probably one of my favorite things, is that the dev takes into account the many different ways that he knows players can get through the area, and he places enemies in very specific intended places. Like, there's a hidden sniper just out on the right side of the building that you can reach in the beginning of the level, and he'll drop his sniper if you knock him out, and that'll let you be able to snipe people from down below. Overall, this level is still real great. One of the main bad guys that you have to kind of kill to gain access to the torture room while you're trying to save. It's a torture room where you're trying to save somebody who's helping you on your case, trying to find the missing Aces people. There are many ways to approach this guy in his, like, I guess, secret quarters. You can shoot him from above on the rooftop, and you can shoot him with a sniper, and like glass will shatter everywhere, and then the two Tommy gun wielding goons that are there bodyguarding him are gonna be like, what the fuck? And you can shoot them too, or you can go guns blazing in the front entrance and like just kill a bunch of goons, or you can go through the side and sneakily make your way in there, and you can snipe him out with some other stuff, or you can, there's just so many different ways of approaching the game. Now, with that said, guns are busted intentionally, but I feel like there needs to be a slight more incentive to get into a brawl with a bunch of goons who could have a mix of melee weapons, unarmed weapons, and guns. And by that I mean, I feel like I think they could still expand on some of the features and mechanics that are available to you in first-person combat. I feel like when you stun somebody, to be able to finish them off, I feel like you should be given the option to be able to grab them from the back and use them as a meat shield, especially for those guys who will have guns equipped. Because more often than not, you'll come across different brawls that you'll get involved in if you get caught out in the open, and you'll fight dudes in front of you who are, unarmed or will have a lead pipe with them. But then more often than not, you'll also come across dudes who wear the black turtlenecks, and those guys are usually armed. They'll have a small snub-nosed revolver on them, and if you're not careful, those guys will completely decimate you as you're trying to first-person brawl everybody. So I feel like one of the ways, aside from infighting that can happen between them, that I feel like you should be able to approach those sorts of situations is being able to counteract the ability for these guys to be far away from you and shoot you from afar as you're trying to fight people up close, like everyone else up close. Which I feel like if you give people the option to stun enemy and then use them as a meat shield for those guys, I feel like that'll incentivize people to interact with the system more. And then maybe, as they try to shoot you, they shoot their guy, they kill their guy, they freak out, and then you could maybe, kick them into the other guy, kick them into the guy wielding the gun, and then that'll help you get an edge on the battle against them, so that way you can go up close and start beating them up. I feel like there should be more of that. What else? There's a couple of typos in some of the cutscenes. I think that stuff will get resolved even if I don't mention it. There's some audio level balancing issues, but in particular in the end of chapter 5. In the end of chapter 5, when you rescue Delia Price, when you rescue her audio levels sound like they're normal enough, but then you get blasted by Nightwave over the intercoms, and then suddenly her volume level gets raised to about his as well, and it's just kind of like a big shocker. Like, what the audio level, mic quality suddenly shifts after you first rescue her, after you get a call from Nightwave, and it was just kind of like an aftershock that you get from that too. Like, what the fuck? Like I was not expecting that, because then when you get back into the gameplay itself, as you're trying to escape from the nightclub, you hear Glassjaw over the intercom, and he sounds like he's at normal levels. It's just specifically in that cutscene after you save her, Nightwave shows up on the intercom radio, and he's just really fucking loud for no reason. And then she gets loud too, even after she was like coughing and like struggling to get up. Now she's suddenly at his level of volume as well, and it's just a little staggering. It's a little like, whoa, what the heck? What happened here? And I feel like that's all I got, really. I mean, that's all I got. Just so you know, me saying this means much more than what I could parlay to you, that I could describe. The way that I'm relaying this information sounds like I'm just trying to be critical of the game, and like that's it. But that should denote that like so much of the game is so good that I don't even have to describe it all that deeply. And that really people should just give it a shot. They're working on a new demo for it at the very least, so that I'm happy for. The new demo is probably gonna have either gonna have the same exact demo level that they used prior, but with the current game's build, or they might just make a whole brand new level for it and have it just feel like the game does right now, which feels way better than the original demo. But yeah, I'm looking forward to episode 2. I'm looking forward to fixes. I'm looking forward to the AI. I'm looking forward to the AI getting back to the way it was in the original demo. I feel like the original demo had smarter AI. Like, if you moved a door or something like that, if you had left the door open as you were sneaking your way into an area, the AI used to, the goons used to notice and be like, was that like that before? And now in the base game, they don't really do that. They still hear sound effects here and there, but they're not as persistent towards trying to catch you either. Like, there was one case in Chapter 3 where they were more persistent than I thought they would be. Like, they actually chased me across the street into another area. Like, oh shit, like, I was not expecting this. But other than that, there were more often than not, I would knock somebody out, and then the AI would be like, what? And like just not process it for a little bit. And then I could just knock them out too. Like, I at least be a bit more perceptive and a bit more persistent, you know, with trying to find me, especially if they catch like a body somewhere, you know, somewhere in the area or something like that. That'd be nice to do. That'd be nice for the game. Maybe it would make it more stealth, but make it more stealth, because you are totally viable to be able to fight people in first person melee combat in this. You're not completely helpless like a thief or Gloomwood. You can totally fight in first person in this game. It's totally plausible, and the game more often than not will encourage it after a little while. Like after some time, the level design will switch so that you have to kind of like confront people, you know. And it's not like it's impossible. It's totally doable to learn how to do it and how to play the game in that way. Like I said, I went guns blazing for the last chapter too. When it's, you know, when either option is totally viable. But that's me rambling about Fallen Aces. The first episode is really good. It'll probably be up there for some of my favorites of this year, even if it's only a couple hours. Like, I mean, people say that all the time for indies, so I'm looking forward to the rest of it, and I'm looking forward to replaying all these levels over and over again too, because they're just really fun to learn and to kind of memorize all the enemy placements and everything that's in the levels, and just figuring out new ways to approach the game too. Yeah, a lot of fun. I'm done rambling. Next time I ramble will probably be about when I finish Unicorn Overlord and Shadow of the Erd Tree. That's been an experience. Hopefully I have much more specific examples for my love for both of those games. But that's me signing off. Wow, that was, oh my god, almost 33 minutes. What the